On March 29, 1849, the Indian subcontinent lost one of its greatest treasures, an object so precious that it sparked wars, toppled empires, and led to the assassination of kings. Today, it is claimed by 3 nations and even the Taliban. This treasure is the legendary Koh-i-Noor diamond, now sitting on the crown of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, the mother of the late British monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. But the Koh-i-Noor diamond isn't just any diamond. It is said to carry a curse so powerful that no male ruler dares to wear it. So what makes the Koh-i-Noor so special? How did it travel across continents and centuries to end up in the crown jewels of the United Kingdom? And is it really cursed? This is the story of the world's most infamous diamond, the Koh-i-Noor. The story begins in 1628, during the reign of the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, a time when the empire had reached the pinnacle of its power and artistry. You've likely heard of Shah Jahan as the man who built the Taj Mahal, but what you may not know is that he commissioned another masterpiece, one that cost 4 times as much as the Taj Mahal. A throne so grand it was called the Peacock Throne. This throne wasn't a seat of power. In fact, it was more than that. It was a symbol of divine rule, crafted from pure gold, embellished with the rarest jewels, and adorned with 2 life-sized golden peacocks. And the throne was designed to reflect the legendary throne of King Suleiman from the Quran. And sitting atop of this dazzling masterpiece was the Koh-i-Noor diamond. Yet mysteriously, the Peacock Throne vanished without a trace, and no one really knows what happened to it. But there's one thing that we do know. Wherever the Koh-i-Noor goes, tragedy seems to follow. Shah Jahan's son descended into brutal infighting. As is common with all empires, whether Mughal or Murdoch, succession is always a problem. So Aurangzeb, one of his sons, emerges victorious, but his reign was harsh, ignited rebellions that weakened the Mughal emperor, and it was only a matter of time before an outsider with a greater ambition sets his sights on India. That man was Nader Shah, the Napoleon of Persia. In 1739, Nader Shah's military campaigns were depleting his treasury. He needed more money and more wealth to sustain his war efforts. India was rich, but teetering on collapse. The Mughal emperor at the time was a guy named Muhammad Shah Rangila. He was incredibly incompetent, more interested in lavish parties and cross-dressing than governing. Historians called him an absolute fool, and his negligence set the stage for one of the most infamous invasions in history. So, as Nader Shah is approaching Delhi, Rangila is completely oblivious. But when Rangila finally mobilizes his army, he made a fatal mistake. His camp, supposed to defend against Nader Shah's forces, was more like an 18th century version of Glastonbury, a festival complete with chefs, entertainers, and women. It took Nader Shah's army just minutes to crush the Mughals at the city of Karnal. In the chaos, Rangila stashed the Koh-i-Noor in his turban, hoping to keep the diamond hidden. But Nader Shah wasn't fooled. During a seemingly peaceful dinner, as was customary in negotiations, Nader Shah proposed a turban swap, suspecting the diamond's hiding place. And with a simple gesture, he seized the Koh-i-Noor, sealing Rangila's fate and capturing Delhi. 6 weeks later, Nader Shah left the city of Delhi towards Khorasan with an estimated 8.2 billion pounds worth of loot in modern terms. But the Koh-i-Noor wasn't just a prize, it was a curse. After claiming the Koh-i-Noor, Nader Shah proudly wrapped it around his arm, a symbol of his conquest. But with the diamond came disaster. Soon after, Nader Shah began to unravel. Paranoia gripped him, and he grew suspicious of everyone around him. His fear became so overwhelming that after a failed assassination attempt, he even ordered his own son to be blinded, despite having no evidence against him. The once great conqueror descended into madness, becoming his own worst enemy. Eventually, in the dead of night, 2 of his relatives, fearing for their lives, murdered him in his sleep. The mighty Nader Shah, who once ruled over a vast empire, was now another victim of the Koh-i-Noor's curse. In the ensuing chaos, the Persian army ransacked his treasure vaults, searching for the diamond. Torture, betrayal, and death followed wherever the Koh-i-Noor went. So, in a desperate bid for safety, Nader Shah's wife Chuki handed the diamond to Ahmad Shah Durrani. He was the head of Nader Shah's bodyguards, in exchange for protection. So in the middle of the night, Chuki, along with her family, accompanied Durrani eastwards, where Durrani became the founder of the new Durrani Empire and of modern Afghanistan. In the early 1800s, Shah Shuja Durrani was the grandson of Ahmed Shah Durrani, ruled as the king of Afghanistan and the bearer of the Kohinoor diamond. But his reign was short-lived. Soon after taking the throne, Shah Shuja was overthrown by his half-brother, forced into exile, this seems like a common story, and eventually imprisoned in Kashmir. Desperate to save her husband, Shah Shuja's wife made a daring plea for help to Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the first emperor of the Sikh Empire. So in this desperate gamble, she struck a deal, her husband's life in exchange for the Kohinoor. Ranjit Singh, who was keen on power and legacy, agreed. He invaded Kashmir, freed Shah Shuja, and claimed the Kohinoor as his prize. In fact, he also wore the diamond strapped around his arm like a shining symbol of true kingship and dominance. At the same time, of course, the British East India Company was steadily tightening its grip on India. With a vast army of 200,000 soldiers, the East India Company was becoming a formidable force. Yet one thing eluded them, the true jewel of an empire, the Kohinoor diamond. However, Ranjit Singh's army, trained by Napoleon's generals, was far too powerful to challenge, at least for now. But change was on the horizon, and soon even this mighty army would crumble under the weight of history. The death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh triggered a tragic chain of events. His son, Karak Singh, inherited the Kohinoor and the throne, but soon was poisoned and died. So the throne passed to his 19-year-old son, Nonhal Singh, who showed promise, but was met with a grim fate when he mysteriously was assassinated moments after his father's funeral. Next in line was Sher Singh, who too was murdered, along with his son, leaving the empire in complete chaos. Only a 5-year-old Duleep Singh remained. He was the youngest son of Ranjit Singh. His mother, Rani Jindal, ruled on his behalf, but her humble origins weakened her authority, and the British East India Company saw that as their chance. Enter Lord Dalhousie, with ambitions to please Queen Victoria and one day maybe become Prime Minister, spread malicious rumors discrediting Rani Jindal and casting doubt on Duleep Singh's legitimacy. Eventually, Rani Jindal is forcibly dragged away and locked up in a palace outside Lahore, not to see Duleep again for another 13 years. Eventually, in 1849, the British finally defeated the Sikh Empire, and Duleep was coerced into signing away his kingdom, his wealth, and of course, the Kohinoor. He was sent to live with a Scottish foster couple, immersing himself in British culture. He even converted to Christianity. When Kohinoor was handed to Dalhousie, its journey to England was plagued with disaster. Cholera outbreak on the ship claims the lives of many, and upon arrival to the UK, Robert Peel, a key advisor to Queen Victoria, died in a freak accident. The curse of the Kohinoor was far from over. Despite her hesitation due to the rumors of the curse of the diamond, Queen Victoria accepts the gift. Meanwhile, Queen Victoria becomes increasingly captivated by Duleep Singh. Against all advice, she even invites him to visit her at Buckingham Palace, where they formed a close bond. During one visit, Victoria handed Duleep the Kohinoor, and in a symbolic gesture, he said, "It is my great pleasure to present to you the Kohinoor." This act touched the Queen deeply, and she continued to wear the diamond even after Prince Albert's death. During a time when she wore basically no other jewelry, she continued to wear the Kohinoor. As Duleep Singh grew older, resentment towards Queen Victoria deepened. He realized he had been manipulated as a child into giving up his kingdom and wealth. He plotted to reclaim India, even seeking the support of the Russian Tsar, but his plans failed. He was arrested by British intelligence before reaching his goal, and his wealth was stripped away. Duleep Singh sadly died alone in a Paris hotel in 1893, his dream of reclaiming his heritage forever unfulfilled. Even though the Kohinoor now rests within the British crown jewels, its history is far from resting in peace. It carries with it tales of conquest, betrayal, tragedy, and a curse that spans centuries. As long as a diamond exists, its story continues, leaving us to wonder, will the Kohinoor ever find its rightful home, or is it destined to remain a symbol of the untold costs of empire?